I'm your host, Chris Cook with Men Talk. We have a very special guest with us, Earl Sagewolf. Earl is an incredibly multifaceted individual who has worn many hats, literally and figuratively. Earl shares his journey from being a barber to becoming a men's empowerment coach, facilitator with Sacred Sons. He opens up about his personal growth, the importance of brotherhood, and the transformational work he does through his 90. I got to redo that. Let's redo the whole thing. Like reset the whole thing. Yeah. Okay. I'm your host, Chris Cook with Men Talk. We have a very special guest with us, Earl Sagewolf. Earl is an incredibly multifaceted individual who has worn many hats, literally and figuratively. Earl shares his journey from being a barber to becoming a men's empowerment coach and facilitator with Sacred Sons. He opens up about his personal growth, the importance of brotherhood, and the transformational work he does through his 90-day reset program. Earl, tell us a bit about what you do. I've done a little bit of research, right?
Yeah.
There's so many things I don't think I can name them right off the bat, so just break it down for us.
Yeah, man. So many things. It's correct. My human design, the manifesting generator, it tells the tall tale of why I have so many reasons and projects and wanting to hop to this and that. And so, yeah, I have quite a few things on my plate, and I'm in the era of taking what's on my plate and getting rid of the things I don't serve or it's not aligned.
Okay.
There's a lot of things I did and have done and still do. So most of what I do now is I'm a one-on-one coach for men.
Okay.
Embodiment, empowerment coach. I do group sessions as well. I have a 90-day reset with about 9 brothers right now, and it's flowing really well. And then I have a men's group. It's called the Fellowship, and we meet once a month. About to be 2 times a month. I'm a facilitator with Sacred Sons, so all the things that encompass brotherhood and men's work. Also, I create hats. I take hats and turn them into personal crowns. I'm wearing one right now.
Yes,
my crown.
It's awesome, dude.
Yeah, I love
great.
it. It's fun, man. And how I ended up with the crowns is I'm retiring from hair as we speak. 18 years of traveling and teaching, helping schools open and being instructors at schools and being on stage teaching for companies and all that stuff. I am retiring. I'm hanging the hat literally up, and my hands were like, oh, you still want to create, want to do things. And I think just organically from hair to hats has been it's always like a crown chakra, like crown business I'm in, hair, hats, and all that stuff. Yeah, it's slowly transferring into like crowns.
Let's go back and talk about like your barbering. Like, where were you before that? And then like, how did you get into it?
Yeah, so Southern California.
Okay,
I'm just kidding. But yeah, it's way back, and I was in Southern California, and I was just like finding myself type of thing. I was much younger. And I slipped into this salon called Bedheads in Temecula, California. And I just wanted dreads at the time. And so the owner did the dreads, and then I didn't understand why they'd get fuzzy and get all messy within a week. Bless her heart, I didn't know this before, but now I do. But she would still reschedule me every week and tighten up my dreads and just not even charge me. I didn't know it was a thing.
Oh, okay.
And so we just developed a relationship, and she was like, ended up being like my second mom type of figure in my life, and taught me a lot of things. And through that, she knew my story, and she welcomed me to be like the receptionist at the salon, sweeping hair and doing all the things. And so I was around the salon biz around that time, and then it just turned into, okay, this is what I want to do. And she like helped me with the schooling part. She was just like my mother in that space, and showed me a lot. And then team there too. A lot of the stylists there were like rooting me on, and so I just fell into hair at that point.
Yeah.
And then fast forward to moving to Utah, I had to go back to school because of the hours and all that stuff. And then I ended up working at Lunatic Fringe for a while. And then I just hopped around from salon to salon, knowing who I am now. I'm like, oh, before I was like, why am I doing this? What's happening? All the things. But
So you said something just before that. You said your manager, boss, the person you're getting your dress done with, she says she knew your story. What was the story?
At that time, my story was, good thing you were like bringing that to the light. I have an 18-year-old that just graduated school. I have a 17-year-old about to graduate next year, and they're in this space as a young man, boy, like, what do I do? Or what's the pressure of like, I got to do something. And that's where I was. I didn't know like where I was going. I was just coming off of high school and playing basketball, and I was supposed to play for certain colleges, and I was that guy.
Gotcha.
And it just didn't flow that way. And so I was just heavy confusion. I tried going to a couple semesters to fashion design school, and I learned quickly that sewing and pattern making or pattern design and costume design wasn't my thing. So I was just like, what do I do? And I walked in synchronously into bedheads and then grew that relationship. And that's how I say it. I fell into hair. And then the story of like me just not knowing where to go, and she locked it in for me. Okay. And so that's awesome. That's the story. Yeah.
That's awesome. And I think there's one thing I think we would relate on this part, but growing up sports all my life.
Yeah.
It like literally became an identity thing.
Yeah.
And so it's like got done with college hockey, and then it's what do you
do?
And who am I?
Yeah.
And you're like searching, and then you're trying to find yourself.
Yeah.
And you're like, I was like this dude. Now it's cool.
How do I wear my shoes? How do I? Yeah. That's where I was too. And now I'm in it again, but I know who I am now. So for me back then though, it was like exactly that. People knew me. It was to a point where I would go to the grocery store, and people, like certain people that knew high school basketball knew who I was. Like that's where it was.
Yeah.
And so I was living the identity through other people. And
gotcha,
and then, I'm a basketball player. That's who I am. I'm half black, half white. That's who I am. That's who I am. That's who I am. And to this day, curiosity and play has taken me through this whole thing. So being curious and being like, what if I stepped in a room and I wasn't a basketball player? What if I stepped in a room and I wasn't half black, half white? What if I stepped in the room and I wasn't what people thought I was actually who I am? What has taken me to this level of, and it's just like layer after layer though, right? Because some of it is preached and taught from my parents where I grew up.
Programmed.
Yeah, the programs and stuff. Right, so it was just very solid that I was a basketball player. So I was really lost. And so that's why that lady had a soft spot in my heart and like my life, because she like helped me with that curiosity and play.
Yeah.
We did weird shit, like stuff that I was never like, I was just like doing regular stuff, and she just like fun though, like different stuff. And it was just cool for me to be, this is life. This is like fun. This is like she took all of us, the salon at the time, we went to the Staples Center and watched Prince perform. Like just stuff like that was like, whoa. And it was just like star-studded, like drinking I got a beer or drinking at the time I was drinking, and Polly from James Addiction, the lead singer, was in front of me and bought us a beer, and
that's crazy.
It was just like crazy meeting, like, and I'm like, I'm doing hair, like just certain things was like, this is you can make your own schedule, and just certain things like she turned me on to that curiosity and play, and I was blessed with that to start deprogramming like my identity. And then dreads and different things, and it just fell into place.
Would you say, now looking back at when you started doing barbering and getting in the hair business, and then where you're ending now, would you say like you're fulfilled with where you got, and like you're happy with people you met, things you experienced? Meeting so many different people. Would you say like you're fulfilled through that? Okay. Am I okay leaving this right now?
Yeah.
Like, how's that for you?
It goes back and forth, and being able to honor the like grief of not doing something I've been doing for 18 years, even like the building the clientele, the stress of this, the stress of that, still, I'm not going to be doing that in that way anymore. And we had this interview like 2 weeks ago before I went to Vegas. I did my last hair show with Cloak and Dagger, and
that's a big thing.
Yeah, it was big because I did my last little education on stage, the booth, and hanging out with people from other booths. And Tori Hanzo was there. I used to work for them, and some of the old heads were there. And it's just like, for a reason, obviously, because I was like done, and then hanging out with them and getting to know them. And just, I was, oh, this is my last hurrah. And like seeing these people in this way. And so I coming home this last week was like, oh, I just sat with this grief of, man, but also like you were saying, oh, I feel complete. I feel pretty complete about this whole thing. Yeah. Because I was like the last hurrah, and it's like, that was fun, and I'm ready for this new adventure.
But that's what I was going to say. It's from the time you were just young until now, you're leaving that life that you grew so much in. And then now you said you're doing the men's work, the immersion stuff, the resets. Yeah. So let's go into that.
Yeah, man. And what better way to leave something this time around, like not holding on to that part of the identity more than just the habits and like going to the salon, talking to people in that way is more the grief. This time is like, whoa, I'm in a direction that's aligned to my life. Yeah. It's scary as heck because financially, all the things, all the moving parts, the mechanics of life, but it's not getting in my way though. It's hard to explain unless you're a human that knows where you're going and how you're doing it, and you give whatever to whoever's talking, all the haters, all the things, and you just go straight forward. There's this thread of this feeling I don't know how to describe that knocks all the fear, knocks the stress away. I'm having these hard conversations with my wife and creating this like in the hard conversations as in, what are we going to do?
As in a partnership, you should be having those conversations, which you're so right doing that. And I feel like there's a lot of other people that probably would just do it and just, figure it out,
Yeah. And like the support I have in my partner is a big reason why I'm able to do this, and her family and how they support me in this. I've been supported throughout my whole life in this way, and I'm like so much gratitude in that. And like even being able to come on this podcast and talk to you, just every nuance of what's happening now, there's a lot of presence to it based on knowing who I am and my direction, right? So like it feels off or feels this way when I was doing hair or like when I was in this. But now I'm just like, all right, I could sit here, arrived here a little late, but I could just breathe into it, just chill out, have a good conversation with my guy and go home, hang out with my family. And just like for me, living life authentically and like more and more as who I am. And, the brotherhood, the resets and all that's part of it. But most of it is like going home and like I was saying, having those hard conversations in a bonding way versus the way I used to show up is life for me. And eventually being able to cultivate that into traveling and doing more and bigger and greater things, co-creating with my lady. So,
So break that down, not just for me or Skylar, he's getting married. So what's a bonding way to communicate with your partner? Because I feel like, again, we're all humans and there's a good way to do it. And then there's a way to do it that's not healthy. So for you, what's helped you in your, I don't want to say wife. What's her name?
Shaylee.
Okay. What does Earl and Shaylee do to make it healthy?
Yeah, that is a good question. And it's not parallel. It's different for everyone. For me.
And it's just for other people just to pick and choose what they want to do and not. So
that's good. Yeah. So for instance, on the way up here, there was a hard conversation that was had. And I feel like we bonded better each time. We're bonding better and better. And what I do as the man, the masculine, the holding of the feminine and whatever she gets to say and stuff, the more I know who I am, the more I respond and react from my heart And the more she could feel that, and the more calm or more like communications happening versus arguing and cutting off.
So there's like more sense of there's a control between each other. Like controlling your emotions and not getting to a place where there's bickering back.
And so instead of control is devotion to being present. It's hard. Like I expressed to her. That's the biggest thing though, I think, in our communication in marriage for our man over here is identifying your emotion and expressing it, no matter if she gets it or not. Because today I felt like she might have not really got it. And obviously we're on two different humans. So she,
as expected,
and she didn't really get it, but I knew it was from my heart. And I told her I felt heavy. I felt hurt. And I felt it right here.
Yeah.
Like in my chest. And then even if she didn't respond to certain, like she felt that. Even though she had other things to say, which is rightfully valid. Then we come back to, if we need a break or we need whatever, we come back to that. And it's even more, there's even more like bond within our union.
Okay.
And so that's where I'm at with her now, where we're like able to communicate where we're at and check in. Like if she's scared, stressed or whatever, I don't take it personal. A big thing is breathing. Don't stop breathing. Like even right now we're short breaths because we're listening, right? So remember to breathe. And there's taps. Sometimes when she's talking, she knows I'm tapping because it's like, it's coming online. It's, whoa, oh, I got to move this energy. I'm like, because even right now as it comes up, right?
Yeah.
And you could even take a moment right now and bring yourself to a remembering of, or a moment that you were heated. And your nervous system doesn't know if it happened yesterday or it's happening right now.
Gotcha.
And that's how you get to really cognitively move energy. And you're just the presence of, I could feel that right now. Think of something right now.
Yeah.
That obviously you're not going to tear shit up, but you just pay attention to what happens to your nervous system.
Okay.
Something that just irked you. Do you feel like, oh, it just shifted a little bit? And you're just like,
Yeah.
So those are the moments that the more reps I have with feeling that and not bypassing it, going to the gym or talking to my boys or drinking it like I used to drink and all the things and bypass all those because it was uncomfortable. It feels weird.
Yeah.
Right. Now I'm like in reps. I'm just like, oh, bring it. Because I know on the other side of that, I get to, like you were saying, control, but it's the devotion to like myself, my nervous system, the old stories, the old programs. Oh, I got hurt in that way, that energetic way, even though my wife's saying something different, but in that energetic way. So I start defending and I start yelling or I start whatever. But now at this moment, I'm like, oh, I can feel that coming. It's so uncomfortable. And it's okay to be uncomfortable. It's okay. If anything, what really gets the feminine really going is them seeing you in that space.
Right. Yeah.
And them like, oh, there he is. He's not quiet. He's not just coming home from work and just saying, okay, I'm okay.
Just going through the motions.
He's actually going through it and they can feel that. And it like really turns him on, not even in the sexual, it just turns him into like engagement with you. Whoa, there he is. There's my king. Because there's a communication that's happening without words.
Correct.
So that's what I do in these moments. I try my best to, no, I don't try my best. I do my best in those spaces of, oh, she's saying some stuff that's not, I can feel it in my elbows and my chest and I start getting a little antsy. And then she sees that, and she used to call that out. I know, and there's communication that gets happened there. I get to be like, hey, babe, if you want me to be this guy, and I want to be this guy, if you see me tapping, let me freaking tap and just be in that. Let me get it out, like without you saying, you're there. That's the thing that triggered me. So it may not trigger everybody. But those are the things that I do in those hard conversations and I'm still like, I see our divine union at this level, and we haven't even hit that yet. So I still have so much room for growth, and like her calling me out to call me in to make me a better man, like to not take it personal. Like I'm still learning that fine line between her projections or her calling me in. Yeah, those are the few things I use.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Just like controlling your emotions and figuring out a way just to put it somewhere else and not
Simply
into the
said,
conversation.
yeah.
What is a men's reset? Could you explain that?
So I did a 90-day reset versus 90-day challenge, or like 75 hard, or all those things are totally welcome in the container I built. And I'm doing another one September. The reset is the 3 pillars of mental, spiritual, and physical. And then I've written up some things that help men tap into, for 90 days, those 3 pillars, right?
Okay.
And then with those 3 pillars, to help men really be present and tap into that, is I mix them with the 4 elements. So for instance, spiritual, you could just pick one of the pillars and then what element. So spiritual, you could say, instead of spiritual, you could say whatever you want in that space.
Okay.
But then the element could be, ritual. Spiritual could be ritual or routine.
Yeah.
And so the ritual, routine, or spiritual part of that could be the element of fire. So the element of fire, okay, what am I going to do in the morning or at night or midday in these 90 days with fire? And so I give some ideas like, okay, so take a moment of silence with a candle and connect to the fire and be very primal in that. Slow it down, or send your prayers. Natives, I've learned through native practice that sage and smoke are prayers going up. So prayers up. So when I light a candle or my Palo Santo or some sage or my Kapal, it's when I get to pray and my prayers are visually going up, right? Yeah. So that could be the element of fire, or taking your shoes off in the morning, watching the sunset or sunrise with coffee, tea, water, barefoot on the earth. So we focus on those pillars, right? And those aspects of the elements for those 90 days. And then you have a person that you connect with in those 90 days, and you go deeper and you guys sync up and have a 30-minute, 2-hour call during that time once a week. And then we have a text thread that we check in every morning.
Okay. That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's just always like, there's always something there for us. 10 men that are involved with this. This was my first launch of it. It's the 90-day reset. Yeah.
That's cool.
Men amongst men.
So there's so many questions that I have. Yeah. So within this men's group, what are some of the things that you see where there's like a disconnect between, whether it's like masculinity, because that could literally be, you're not a man because you're not working out. You're not a man because you're not providing. Where's the gap? What is it
That's a loaded question.
I mean, it could be like in someone's experience that you've helped without, and I don't want you to say their names.
Yeah. I definitely keep it in the container and keep it tight. I could speak for myself and my experience in that. And it's a lot of what you just said. It's the template that was given to us. Because just like I said, it's such a big question to break it down. Is what is man enough? And so in this world that we live in, is just like your typical modern day TV show, how men are showing up on the TV show, what we see, and it trickles down to like how we think men should be. And then it even goes into the feminine, where the feminine think we are, and they start supporting that. And it just becomes that whole thing, right? A lot of it is, I work all day, I come home, sit down, give me a beer, please make me a meal, like all that stuff. And then now it's not as aggressive in that way, but it's still there, right? You have that. That's just like the given. That
I think it's still more there than we know.
There's so much more.
Because I feel like, yes, it was like that.
Yeah.
Forever ago, right? Our parents. But I think even with just social media now, with it just like, it's like hyperactive. Yeah. And I feel like, there's just, do these things, you're not all these things. Yeah. And sometimes I feel like there's also women where I don't have this from you, then we can't.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, again, that was very basic what I was saying, right? There's so much. It is tricky, because then what I see right now, my experience is the pendulum is swinging. And in that swing, I feel like it's confusing. Yeah. Because you have the feminist over here, and the feminist goddess over here that wants the masculine to show up. And then when they get it, they're like, oh, they weren't expecting
that.
And so it gets confusing. And then you have ones that are like, they have archetypes too. The maiden and the crone and the grandmother is boom. You have those women there where they understand like where we are and where we're going. A lot of the men that I surround myself with and I call myself into is what we just talked about, my understanding my nervous system, being present with my wife and her needs and service in that masculine way. And how do I take care of my body? How am I showing up in all these different ways? And how do I play with my kids still? Do I get on in conversations? I'm always getting on my knees, being on their level and all those things. It's being present. It sounds like a lot, like you were saying, it's so confusing. It sounds like a lot. As I'm present though, each moment, like I'm here with you. I obviously think about my kids and dinner. I'm so hungry right now. Yeah. That's there. It's very present, as well as I'm present with you and active listening to your questions and whatever's coming online. And then I'm just here with that. And so I feel like as long as you're doing those things and working your way up, a lot of the stuff out there, hey, you need to learn how to fix your tire and you work and provide, all this stuff it becomes your own. It goes all the way back to what we were first saying, like my authenticity, who I am, how I showed up. Because essentially that's what my wife was attracted to. She saw me the way I am now before I did, right?
Okay.
So she was there. She's in that. She was waiting for me to be this man. And not all women are like that. I have a special one, right? So like she's that person for me, and then it turns into me being authentic and trusting her based on those in those spaces. So there, like I said, that's a big question. Also, you reel it into what you're doing in life and how you're showing up, and then there's things the masculine does, there's things that the feminine does, and that's the confusion these days too, is because they, them, all that stuff, and there's so much honor in being authentic and being those people. And just like there's light and dark, there's masculine and feminine. So you could play with the light and turn it off. And then there's dark. There's just certain things that is the capital T truth. That's what it is. So the masculine are providers and protectors. So I like to check in with those things. Am I protecting? Am I providing? Am I serving? Just the masculine things. And where is it coming from? Is it coming from a place of lack, or I want you to give back? Or is it just a place of my heart that I want to serve my people, my wife, my kids?
What's been the struggle for some, though, to get there?
Ego is a lot of ego.
I can see that.
There's a lot. And the reason why I know is because I've had it and I still do. And so when I am moving through my ego, I could see, oh, dang, that's where I was like 5 years ago or 2 years ago. And that's what's actually helping me track these men on these weekends and in these spaces is like, whoa, like I wouldn't know if I didn't have it. Like having been a father, I understand what just happened because I'm a father, you know, but if I wasn't, I've been through this before. So it's the same with the ego in this healing world and this men's work is, and then once you get that, I don't know if that's the first step is like humbling yourself, like truly humbling yourself from that ego. It's not death to ego, it's humbling that ego. So I think that's the biggest trip up first for the masculine. For a lot. I can see that for sure. And then when you're working with some of these men, whether it be, you know, your men's work or like Sacred Sons, like I'm working with them and like, I know he can get here. It's like, it's going to take work, but like, I know. And then when you see it happen, what is all that like? There's levels to this. So there's men that have been doing it for a while that I'm like, you just got that right out of him. Like you just like literally moved. He was standing there like stone cold. Like we've had some people with hard lives, like some people in poverty, some gangsters there that like soften, full face tattoos, everything. And now they're like, let's go, bro. Like they're in it. Yeah. But it took like tracking that man, knowing when and where to move that man's body and ask the right question to dig into his place. First, though, it's the building of the container where he feels safe enough to go there, right? So, yeah, I've seen some buttons and like, I don't know, energetic twisting and knobs and stuff with some of these Jedi guys out here. Yeah. And I've been able to put my reps in and utilize those tools I've been training with and watching too now. So it's been cool I know what to ask these men. Like this weekend we're doing an Immersion Sacred Sons event, and it's the first time really coming to Utah besides the EMX like 3 years ago, but first immersions to Utah. And this is what I'm bringing to Utah. This is like my passion, why I'm in Utah. Besides marrying and finding my wife and making a tribe, is I found that this is my calling. Yeah, this is my thing, cool. For Utah.
With Sacred Sons, how did I think deep about these things? Like, how does Sacred Sons come about? What's the meaning behind the name? What is Sacred Sons' purpose? Because you have your purpose with your men's work, or it ties in together.
Yeah. It ties in together. The 3 men that started with, it's shifted around. Now it's 4 men that are the founders. And from being with them since 2019, and I started as a participant. I was going through my healing. I was doing all the things. And then I decided on their leadership training path. And so that's where I'm at. So 4 or 5 years of being with them, and this is my experience of and I've heard their spiel of what brought them together, how it found it when Adam's backyard first, and then Joshua Tree, all these things. The thing of it is, I was just talking to one of the like they're my bros, like just talking to all of them, and just talking to one of them, and he's dipping out because he's done 10 years and he sees where like he could do other things now. But his purpose, because they're individual, but to collectively put it together is it's like Voltron, like his purpose and then their purpose made Sacred Sons, right? So recently his purpose, was he wanted to bring bros together worldwide, be it working, doing the work, be it like shooting.
I saw that on the website.
Yeah. So it's like the brotherhood is the medicine,
right?
And connection's the cure. So that's essentially, to wrap it up, that's what their goal is and was. And so the brotherhood and the medicine, we don't do any plant ally medicine. We don't do anything. It's like free of all that on the weekends. And by the end of the weekend, you can see how the medicine has worked. Mm-hmm. And then after the weekend, when you go back down the hill, we call it, and you go into real life, the connection is the cure, meaning like staying connected, keeping the brotherhood tight. Yeah. And so I feel like that's the root and the main calling for this work right now. It's going to shift because essentially we're going to be co-creating with women in these spaces, and it's like new. Cool. We're not going to always stay with men's work, you know? It's just what men get to have.
You got to attack the core first before you.
Before we get anywhere else.
Yeah. And I looked at the website last night, and I've heard about Sacred Sons for a year or so.
Yeah.
And I've only just heard that it was just always happening in California. Yeah. And I got on the website last night. You've got Portugal, like all these other countries.
Ireland.
I'm like, this is insane. I didn't think it was that big.
Yeah.
That's awesome that Sacred Sons is like literally, we could call it global right now.
It is global. Now coming to Utah.
You
know? So yeah.
That is awesome. So aside from barbering, men's work, Sacred Sons, let's talk about your hat.
My hats.
Your hat business.
Yeah, my hat business.
Pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's fun. Too. It's fun. So it started out with purchasing a couple hats for a photo shoot.
Okay.
And then after the photo shoot, I burnt the Teton Mountains on the side of the rancher, a brown rancher. And I thought it was pretty cool. So I tagged the company and put it online, and they're like, they liked it. And then I did another one with the round top, a crescent moon, and tagged the company, which is GG Pip and Two Roads.
Okay.
And so
I saw that.
Yeah, and so they're at that point, they're like, "What are you doing? How is that? What is this?" And asking questions. And then I eventually got in contact with Coy. He's one of the founders of the men's line of it, the Two Roads. Okay. And did a couple photo shoots with them, rocking the hats and connecting with him and then the team at the showroom, and became partners as I started doing more. And how I started doing more hats were like, some of the bros were like, "Hey, are you selling these hats that you're posting?" And I was like, now I am. I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, what do you need? What do you want?
Yes.
Yeah, I guess. And it just grew into like crowns. And I was saging all of the crowns before I gave it to them, and it just turned into crown and sage. So it's just formed.
You got some pretty cool hats.
There's a lot of things you could do with these crowns. And it's funny, I was so into just me being me and just wearing a hat that once I started like my Instagram page and saying, okay, I'm selling hats. Here we go. This is a thing. And I started following people that like do hats and everything. Everyone and their mom customized hats. I didn't know that, but like at the time I was just doing my thing, and I'm like, oh, and which was really cool because I got more inspirations to do this, and then to pick up the sewing needle again and like, sew like these holes and like these intricate lightning bolts and like cool things, and then throwing like learning how to make the hat catch on fire, like just a bunch of the cool stuff. And like the splashing one that I think you're talking about, my daughter helped me design that one, so it's just been really cool.
It was a brown hat with white. Yeah, with white.
I think so. Yeah. I think that because I haven't splashed too many painted hats. But anyways, this is how it happens. You order a hat on the website. You get your head size.
Okay.
And you send it to me. You just DM or text me. You also pick which color and size you want.
Okay.
Then I go pick it up, and then we get on a call. We could go deep with what you want on it: crystals, logos, spirit animals, totems, whatever.
Yeah.
And it becomes from a hat to a crown, and I ship it off in the cool box and everything. And sometimes lately I haven't, but sometimes I write a little scroll note and put some sage in there, and
that's cool.
Make it a thing. It's very personal for me to be able to go into those spaces with people
for sure
and make it like a custom piece that like is their crown, and it's, hey, here's a confidence booster, or here I'm walking in a room with this, because it takes a certain person to wear that hat, and it makes it easier when it's your crown, right? So that's how that all came about with the hats.
That's so cool. So like what I'm noticing about you from the start of our conversation, started off with barbering, and then you talked about like being creative. Dude, this has followed you like your entire life.
Yeah.
From what you're wearing to your hats.
Yeah.
You've been a barber for so long, dude. I think that's so awesome. Have you always had that creative mindset?
No, I feel like I did.
It's pouring out of you. Like I just look at you as you're super creative.
Thank you. Because I know who I am now. It's taken a lot, because I was living the identity of a basketball player. Yeah. And like I wore dating myself, but I loved dressing meth man and red man, and that's what I wore. And I looked that way, you know.
The Tims.
Yeah, the Tims, and like any like Air Force Ones and all that stuff, and chains and do-rags matching, all the things. Yeah. That was high school, right? And so that was like, and a little after high school. But yeah, I started like, again, being curious and playing around and seeing like, how does this look on me? Because it was already in me. So I just like, again, flexing the muscle of creativity all the way to now. I've always got compliments. Even when I started really like knowing who I was and got compliments, it went to my head. So I even got to like work on that journey of being arrogant. And sometimes I was an asshole, and I was like this person. But now I know who I am. I could say, oh, I was an asshole, because that's not who I am now. And my apologies, but here I am. Yeah. So I think that going back to the egotistical and like in that lifestyle. And so with my creativity, it's been a journey of all of that. Well, and I welcome all of that. And that's I'm like, whoa, sorry, babe. And I still like to these moments, we'll have these conversations, and I'm now learning to sit. That's most of my journey, and my triggers is to sit with how I used to treat my wife. Yeah. And how I thought I was the coolest thing in the world, especially when I traveled and I was on stage cutting hair, and I was this person. And it wasn't like I was just gloating around and being this person. I just had my moments for sure.
Yeah, you had your identity then.
Yeah, my identity. And I was living up to the name of that. And in those spaces, I would just not treat my wife the way, or my kids the way I know I could. Yeah. And so I just, even to this day, like some of those stories come up with my wife, and we'll be just driving and now I know she gets to speak about it. She gets to, instead of me, oh, why do we have to talk about it now? Or defend it. Now I just, oh, is this what's coming up? Okay, here we go. Because if she doesn't, it's just always going to be there. So each story that she gets to feel safe to express with me, the one that hurt her, the more she gets to heal through that. Even if it's driving to Cherry Hill with kids in the back ready to party in the pool, she needs to like let it out. I'm learning now to, there's no better time. It used to be like, can we just set time, and very masculine. Hey, can we talk in this moment? Let's put it in the schedule. And
Right.
Now it's like, all right, it's time.
So what is one thing you say just throughout your journey, barbering to Sacred Sons and all this stuff, your business, or it could be just multiple things. What has Earl had to overcome?
This is just the human experience,
right?
So my overcoming is the ego. And I wasn't diagnosed narcissist, but part of that egoic life that men have, it's very easy to slip in the characteristics of the narcissist. And I was definitely that. And so it was tough, and it still is tough to overcome not always being right, or like in this conversation of, even if I know I'm right, letting it go. Like my ego, just of I'm checking in. Am I trying to manipulate the situation? Because I don't want to. Now where I'm at, I don't want to. And so the hardest was to consistently be on this vibe. Of checking in and overcoming my ego or whatever, or like in the conversations, or even at work, or when I'm with the bros, or even when I'm like, there's 20 men around me with Sacred Sons, and I walk in and process a brother. Am I doing this to gloat? Am I doing this for the men to see me? I'm a Jedi. I have this, like, I get to check myself all the time. And so
I think that's really healthy to do.
But that was the hardest thing for me to get over, was to understand that and make it consistent. I still have my moments, bro. Like, it's still there. And it's like what me and my wife explain is when we talk, it's always going to be there. And this is what I like to, when I coach one-on-one with these men, and in these coaching containers, I have 10 weeks or 6 months or however long we do once a week, and we get on these calls. Whatever's keeping you stuck, on a third person perspective, I get to coach and move things through that. This person could get through their ego, or get through this, let's say imposter syndrome. Oh, who am I to do this? Who am I to do this? A lot of us have that, including me. It's always going to be there. It's a human experience. It's always going to be there. But the thing is, it's going to show up less, and so once a year it could be, but it's always slightly going to be there, and more of a whisper. So your anger, your attitudes, or whatever you're working on, just know that it's always going to be there. That helped me so much. That was a game changer. I'm like, oh shit, here we are. It's here. It's here again. Hello. And you get to say, okay, thank you. You supported me. Whatever you did, the anger back in the day, but right now I'm going to let you go. And that's my check-in, whatever it is. And again, I'm still working on it. I'm not the best at it. But these are the things that were like the hardest to get over, to understand, to be consistent, and to embody. So it's like the first thing is like to even know. A lot of us I was in autopilot, just like as soon as something triggered me, I just did it. Bypass this, drink, whatever it was, I just did it, right? The first step is to witness and understand that's happening to you. And it could be 2 years that you just knew, oh, this is happening. Then the next step is like identifying it. What is the thing that's triggering you? What is the thing that keeps you in this low vibration? What is the thing that's keeping you from your financial goals? What is the thing that's keeping you from your relational goals? And then the next thing is, what are the actions, the bridge to embodiment? So what are the actions? What am I going to do right now, today? The small steps, the big steps to change that cycle, and then even growing on those, right? And then it becomes embodiment after consistency and reps. So that's the whole goal of what I like to bring to Utah, is the embodiment of masculinity. So through whatever the story is for you, that's what we get to work on, and that's what I continuously work on. And we just have all these men in Utah showing up. And women feel safe. Kids feel safe. They could go anywhere. My daughter could go up the street without me tripping because I know like men are here to like protect and serve and not be predators and have women serve us.
How can everyone reach out to you for the Sacred Sons?
Right now it's Earl_Sagewolf.
Okay.
I'm open to DMs, whatever you need. And then in my bio, it just shows like my hats, Sacred Sons, and it directs you to their webpage and what event you want to go to. If anybody has any questions, that's where they would reach me first and foremost.
To everyone listening, remember the first step to transformation is reaching out. So take the step now, reach out to Earl, and start your journey toward greater authenticity and growth. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time, stay true to yourselves and keep striving for excellence.